former two-time teammate Davante looking for a new team after being released by the Jets. The favorite, a homecoming to the Packers, followed by the Chargers, 49ers, Rams, then a three-way tie with Broncos, Steelers, Patriots, and then the Chiefs coming in at 8th. Brew, you're our resident Packers fan, although you haven't made your 2025 predictions just yet. Do you want to see J-Lo with Davante?
Well, I wouldn't mind it. He's not a great receiver anymore, but he's been great, and I think he's still very good. Right now, they've got a group of good receivers. Can any of them be great? Who knows? But Davante knows what it takes to be great, and I think he could help, maybe tutor, mentor those guys while still being productive himself. So I like that. But you know what? With DK Metcalf available now, I kind of like that even better if I'm Green Bay. I like Metcalf.
Well, there's not the connection. There's not the history.
Yeah, but I mean, but Rodgers is gone. It's not like he's not there. But I don't hate Davante there. If they end up with Davante Adams, I'd be fine with that. But I'd probably rather get DK Metcalf.
Do you like Jordan Love? Because you tagging him with the J-Lo moniker makes me feel like you hate him.
No, I love J-Lo.
The fact that it's gained some momentum here is rough. Here's where I struggle with this is they had 4 receivers last year, 3 receivers and a tight end who got 70 targets. So it was egalitarian. Everybody had an opportunity, and they're all young and they're all growing together. So now you bring in a guy like Davante. If he's a great mentor, if he's a positive force, if he's all those things in the room, that could be a really good thing because he can help nurture those guys along. But I don't know if he is or not. I don't have that familiarity with him. If he's a guy that comes in who's used to getting well over 100 targets, and now he wants all the targets, and now he puts the pressure on a young J-Lo, impressionable J-Lo, to throw him the ball, and all of that pressure that you put on a defense because you're willing to go to anybody, now you're pushing the ball to one guy because if he doesn't get it, he's not happy about it. I think that could be detrimental, and he has a different cachet than all those other guys.
Yeah.
So if he is a negative guy, that can really affect the dynamic of that room.
Yeah, I know it's going to sound weird. I don't really look at receiver as a mentor position. I think receivers want theirs almost at all times. And I think that is partly what makes guys great, is that I think this is kind of more long-winded than we have time for here. Because it's such a dependent position, you can be the best receiver in the world, and if you have terrible quarterback play or you can't show it, that it generates, or it creates, if there wasn't already there, kind of a needed selfishness that then when you do become awesome manifests itself in what I think we're seeing right now with A.J. Brown, which is, I think it's on the board, A.J. Brown is traded this offseason.
Hello.
Oh,
you read any reports?
I'm sure the Patriots would love him. And by the way, I think that's a good example, and I'll try to land the plane back with that, Davante. I don't think A.J. Brown would be sad about that. I think if A.J. Brown's like, so I'm going from the Super Bowl champion to maybe the worst team in the league, but I am going to get 150 targets, and we have a traditional ring. Right, I got my ring, and so I think if Davante were watching, he would have taken issue with one thing significantly. Bruce saying he's not great anymore. I think he still thinks he is great.
I think he is. You think he is great?
I think he thinks he's still great. I agree with you. I think he's good to very good. I don't think he's even in the argument for top 5 receiver, where he lived for a long time. But they were 2-4 when he signed with the Jets, and he and Rodgers threw a little Zoom party on McAfee, coming to save the day. Here's what I was surprised that wasn't in the odds, nor in Brew's answer. It feels to me, unless he just so desperately wants to be on the West Coast, that the team for him would be Baltimore. That it seems like it's not.
Coach doesn't like it.
Why
do you not like it? Because that could take away from their run.
Even if they're a running team.
Every year we talk about sending receivers to Baltimore.
I know.
Every year they draft one, they get one, and every year that receiver within the season's like.
Right. But what they've never done is get an established veteran guy that wasn't, they got Odell, but he was done at that point. You're right. They take a lot of shots in the draft on the receiver, but they haven't gone out and gotten a guy like Davante. Like that. That's where I thought Brew was going to.
Yeah. All right. I want to look at this through the Green Bay Packers lens rather than just the Davante Adams lens, which are two different lenses, two different incentives, two different goals, two different objectives. If you're the Green Bay Packers, you got to be thinking, hey, we really hit the ground running, relatively speaking, a couple years ago when Jordan Love was officially our starter, and we absolutely annihilated the Dallas Cowboys, and that was awesome. And we had a chance to beat, and quite frankly, should have beaten the 49ers. Like the Packers lost that game more than the 49ers won that game, from my viewpoint. Which then, if you want to kind of keep that thread going, you were like, well, then you were right there. You were right there. And then now you play the Eagles first round and you lose. You lose to the team that won the Super Bowl. So obviously not easy, but that game was ugly. I understand that the Packers ended up dealing with some injuries, but that team was just not ready. The Packers had no life in them. I was disappointed in just how the Packers showed up, quite frankly. And we saw that in a handful of games, many games, quite frankly, for the Packers this season. So then I look at it and be like, okay, so then what does a Davante Adams do? And I'm like, well, I'm not so sure. Does he stabilize the offense? Does he smooth out some of the edges? Maybe, kind of. I think when you're talking about great players, awesome players who are no longer what they were and they're getting older, they become so brutally difficult to evaluate the impact that they're going to have on a team, because you just don't know. You really don't. It's so hard. And I don't know enough. Yeah, is Davante a good enough leader? What does Davante want with Green Bay? If he goes back to Green Bay, what does he want? Is he totally okay? Just like, you know what, man, I want to finish out my career. I just want to come back to Green Bay. I want to come back home, essentially. It's been kind of weird ever since I left, and I just want to return home. I know I'm at the end of my career, and I am going to be a good soldier, and I am going to work with the receivers. And I agree with what Nick is saying. It's not so much like a wide receiver is a mentor position, but you still have the ability to be a voice, to be a leader. Not to mention, at the very least, mentoring in the sense of like you're leading by example. I think more than anything, other wide receivers are looking at the older guys, the more experienced guys, and you're just watching them and observing more than anything. I think so much of how you learn and grow from someone when you're on the same team is it's not so much of them having the conversations with them and the discussions and this that. It's just learning from them. It's just watching them more than anything, seeing how they approach things, and that matters. That matters tremendously. It's why all good, many good programs, this all depends on the sport. But if you're talking about, this is where football is a little bit differently, but if you're talking about basketball and baseball and whatnot, but also football to a degree, when you're talking about the more like off-season workouts, specifically like in high school and stuff, you a lot of times when the stakes are a lot lower, you have everyone together, because now you're having the young guys who are entering into this new program. They're just going to be around the older guys, see how they do it, see how they interact with the coaches, where now the younger guys have limited experience with the coaches, see how they address practices, see how they, see what they do, see their work ethic, see what they put in. Also, it gives the opportunity for the coach to single out the older guys and say, look what this guy's doing. Now the younger guys are looking up and being like, okay, that's the goal. That's what I'm getting after. And I think even little things like that go a long way when it's the right pieces, when it's the right people, when it's the right personalities, because it could also just go in the wrong direction, right? Older doesn't automatically mean better and more experienced or leader. So I think the Packers are in a tricky situation here, because I think last season left such a terrible taste in their mouth that there's the feeling of like, all right, let's go, man. Like we got Jordan Love, we paid him all the money. He's supposed to be a great quarterback. I don't know what last season was. Like come on, man. Heck, Jaden Daniels and the Washington Commanders were able to find themselves in the NFC Championship game. Like what the heck? Let's go. Let's do this. We went toe to toe with the Eagles week 1, and then they went on and won the Super Bowl. And I defended the Packers season, how it unfolded with the injuries, et cetera, but there were still fundamental problems. That was a roster problem, as well as they just seem ill prepared too many times, which is then like a culture coach. And I love Matt LaFleur. That's why the Packers still kind of confuse me a little bit, because there was many times where I was just like, I don't understand what the plan is here. And that's why I'm kind of looking at Davante and I'm like, he's just not at the top of my list. Just like Debo wasn't at the top of the list for me for the Washington Commanders. So when we start talking about other moves that are not at the top of the list, that's where me, for someone who really tries to prioritize the things that need to be done, I always look for what's the most important. And now, to be fair, in football, when you're in the offseason, the priorities, you might not be able to do that right now. The priority might be to do X, Y, and Z, and that's going to take place in the draft or something, right? Like you're going to have to wait for other dominoes to fall, which is totally fair as well. But that's why I can't get super excited and be like, want to see Adams with Jordan Love. Like, yeah, absolutely, that connection will be great, and this. It's just like there's too many other questions for me that it's hard for me just to look beyond and just say, yeah, that this is going to be great. Because it's just, there's more that needs to be done. It's like I said, honestly, about Aaron Rodgers going to another team. It's another question. When you start dealing with these older players, unless you really have a team that's set, locked and loaded, ready to pop, and you add one of these players, maybe, the interview is less important. But the situation that the Packers are in right now, I want to have a real conversation. Be like, Davante, you come to Green Bay, like, what are you hoping to achieve? What are you looking for? If you have 2 games back to back where you get 2 targets and you have, a total of like 20 yards, no touchdowns, like, what are you going to say? What are you going to do? If you pop up on a podcast or a post-game interview, or what are you going to say in the locker room? What are you going to say at practice? Are you going to be real positive? Are you going to be supportive? Are you going to be, pushing everyone? We go on a losing streak. Like what is your mentality? Who are you trying to be at this point in your career? What are you looking for? And then you have to really try to get the most honest answer you can get, and kind of go from there. To me, getting the personalities right for Green Bay right now matters a lot, and getting this culture that feels more grounded for Green Bay. Last season they had moments where I'm like, dude, this is football. This is what I've been waiting to see. And I keep going back to, I think it was the Thanksgiving game against the Miami Dolphins, if memory serves me correctly, and I was like, this is football. This is what I've been waiting all season for the Green Bay Packers. But that was not the foundation of who they were. Figuring out how do you make that the foundation of who you are and go from there. That's what I need to see the Green Bay Packers get back to. Some of their successes even last season, in hindsight, almost feel kind of like, I don't want to say lucky, but almost just more fortunate rather than intentional. And I don't like that. That's an uncomfortable feeling to be in. I need to feel like your success is actually intentional, which is why that Miami Dolphins game, I'm like, brilliant game plan, brilliant execution, brilliant, game management as the game unfolded. I'm like, perfect, especially when watching 2 games that were just the opposite of that. And when you compare it, it's just like, yep, this is a team that's ready to play. This is a team that's ready to win. This is a team that's well coached. This is a team that has the talent. Let's go. And then I see another game and I'm like, what the heck? If this was the only game I saw all season, I'd be like, fire the coach, cut the players, fire everyone. Like, what the heck is this? How do you show up like this? It was too up and down. It was too much of a roller coaster. So find the stability. If Davante adds that stability, I am 100% for it. If not, then there's no reason to revisit the past. It's like, then move on. Get a new girlfriend. Get a new boyfriend. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Davante Adams? Do you want to see him with Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers? Do you think that this would be a welcome addition or could legitimately, continue to push the Green Bay Packers in the right direction? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I'm going to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.